I spent 23 years going after mainly Dominican drug gangs, and I know how a big system, whether it's a criminal justice system or immigration system, works. And I think that perspective has helped me in explaining it to our newest arrived neighbors. The Biden administration changed things. When the election came up, they tried to make the laws a lot harder, so they looked like they were having secure borders, and they really changed the laws. And then, of course, once Trump was elected, the laws just changed again. So it's a constantly evolving thing. It's really hard to keep up to date.
You want to see what real independent journalism funded by the people for the people looks like?
You ever heard a story like this in America?
You're looking at it.
Congratulations for always being somewhere where mainstream media is not.
Flint, Michigan.
See you in Nevada.
Thanks to people like you, we can get the truth. Corporate media, they've been lying to us for years, and you go straight to the people.
You are the man. I'm glad you're here.
For as low as 16 cents a day, you'll keep us on the ground, covering the important stories the corporate media covers up.
I'm an attorney here in New York, and about 3 years ago, I started the Jackson Heights Immigrant Center here in the basement of my home.
And what motivated you to give up your home for this purpose?
I didn't give up my home. My kids have strict rules. We have to stay in the basement. So in 2022, the world changed. The United States started allowing immigrants to come in, but these immigrants were different than other immigrants. Jackson Heights in Queens is one of the most diverse places in the world. So we've had immigrant after immigrant after immigrant group come in for decades. What was different is that immigrants were coming who had no connection at all to the neighborhood. People being put on buses in Texas, and when they got off the bus, they literally did not know what state they were in. They'd ask, like, where am I? I'm like, you're in New York. And a lot of these immigrants had no connection, no one to look to for help, especially in the winter months. They'd show up in flip-flops and like 3 pairs of tube socks, trying to stay warm. And it was just imperative that these people needed help and just be welcomed as our newest neighbors. So I'm retired now, so this is my retirement, but I think I've spent my entire career building communities. I did spend 23 years as a prosecutor in Manhattan, which most people wouldn't think as community building, but I really thought I did. I worked in the Washington Heights community, which is a Dominican neighborhood, and I really tried to let the neighborhood control the neighborhood, not a few bad actors. And I spent 23 years going after mainly Dominican drug gangs and trying to keep those few people who are really making the entire neighborhood feel unsafe. And that once safety is built, the neighborhood changes. People feel like they own the neighborhood. They feel like they're part of it. They participate. They are active. They walk down the street at all hours, the day and night. So what I really worked on was to transform that neighborhood from a neighborhood that a few bad actors controlled to a neighborhood that was vibrant. And starting in 2022, we began just having kind of forums to explain asylum to people and help them apply. I went out on TikTok. There was a free lawyer in New York who would do this for you. And we had lines around the block. In 2.5 years, we did 5,400 asylum applications. That's 5,400 families who could seek a better future here. And then, of course, the Biden administration changed things. When the election came up, they tried to make the laws a lot harder, so they looked like they were having secure borders, and they really changed the laws. And then, of course, once Trump was elected, the laws just changed again. So it's a constantly evolving thing. It's really hard to keep up to date, whether TPS exists, it doesn't exist, whether a fee, there's no fee, there are waivers for fees, there's no waivers for fees. So it's been a constant juggle. Clearly, the current administration tries to close every possible door for everyone, not just newly arrived immigrants, for our highest educated immigrants with H-1Bs, with long-term residents who've had green cards he's trying to take away, up to denaturalizing people. So by attacking everyone immediately, it's really made it hard to be a lawyer because lawyers work on the rule book and the rule book changes every day. Recently we had an incident where with the big beautiful bill, they added a fee. Great, we'll pay the fee. We called up and said, how do you pay the fee? And they're like, oh, there's a form. Like, great, what's a form? Oh, well, the form doesn't exist yet. Well, that's fine for a few days, but now they're rejecting cases because the fee hasn't been paid, but there's no form yet to pay the fee. So you're in a catch-22, and it keeps people scrambling. And this is as an English-speaking attorney, we can't figure it out. A huge number of people are going through this process, what they call pro se, without an attorney, and they have to understand it themselves. And they're relying on TikTok and Instagram trying to get information. I heard such and such works, I heard such and such works, and it leaves everyone confused and scared. And I really think that's the current administration's purpose. I think they want people to be scared. I think they want to push immigrants back into the shadows. For years, this country only allowed people who entered EWI, entered without inspection, people who kind of came in under a fence, where those people lived in shadows and didn't exert rights. They didn't ask for a minimum wage. They didn't ask for 40-hour work weeks. They didn't ask questions. Starting in 2022, this group of immigrants came in and knocked on the door, and they said, we want to come in and we want to seek asylum, and we have rights, and we apply for work authorization and do it properly and legally, and we'll go to court and plead our case. And these workers asked for things like minimum wage, and they asked for workers' rights, and that they be treated fairly. And clearly this administration does not want that. They want immigrants to work as second-class citizens who live in the shadows, who don't question policies and take whatever crumbs are dropped to them. And they clearly want this, and the way they do this is by instilling fear. And by instilling fear, if you see, he attacks the strongest immigrant classes first, green card holders who go to elite universities. He said, if I can crush them, of course I can crush the Venezuelan here on TPS with no education, no language skills. So he's trying to scare everyone back into the shadows. He creates fear in law firms, in the biggest law firms in the United States. He creates fear by attacking individuals and say, you are next.
Do you have any example off the top of your mind of cases that really stay with you that you have worked on?
Oh, sure. Really sadly. People have come from Africa when their entire village has been massacred. They watch the literally chopping up of their family members, and they flee with nothing, not ID, birth certificate, nothing, and all just because of their ethnic group. And they spend years in refugee camps and finally get here, often traveling through 7, 8, or 9 countries. When they finally get here, only to be kind of faced with this bureaucratic system that requires documentation and IDs, things that they don't have. So it's really important that these people understand the process and get the help they need to make sure they can make their claim in court.
So what goes into making a case for a refugee and how hard it is to fight the system to ensure that people are able to stay?
So asylum law is an international law. It came out of World War II. It came out of the idea that if a government oppresses people, they should have a place to flee to. And they can flee to many countries. And here in the United States, our asylum law is very narrow. You have to show that the government or an actor who the government can't control would persecute you in the other countries. The rules are that when you enter the United States, if you apply for asylum, if that application is pending for more than 180 days, the government says you have a right to work here while your case is pending. While you're waiting for the government, you can work here and fight your case. This process can take years. So in the meantime, they have the right to work. So the first thing they did was they made it just harder to maintain your status. The way they did this was by really kind of insidious, evil tactics. You have to attend court. That's one of the things, right? You have to go attend the process. Well, they went to court and they started arresting people with no reason, arresting people who have done everything right, who came here legally, who've been going to court legally, who have pending cases legally, and just detaining them. And that made it such that you didn't want to attend court, and therefore, if you don't attend court, you've broken the rules, and therefore they deport you in absentia. And this made it fearful to just follow the process. And by creating that fear, what they're doing is they're basically making people abandon the process. And I think that has really made it really hard, because once you do that, you lose your work authorization. The second thing they're doing is they're attacking immigrants in kind of informal work settings, whether it's outside of a Home Depot or doing a delivery app. And that way people are just trying to earn a living. So he's found ways to attack them at every which way, making it just harder and harder to survive. So he's trying to cower people. And I think the key is we have to stand up and be brave. This is one individual who's got 3 more years in office. We're not going to let him crush a system that we've built up over hundreds of years. The United States has a constitution that we think can survive even the most egotistical of people, such as our current administration, that we've got to have some faith that's going to continue, and that we can't cower, that we can't kind of go into the shadows. We must stand up for our neighbors, for our groups, by claiming people are terrorists. In fact, they're just against you. The key is that we have to stand together and stand proud and stand tall, that we really love the fundamental ideas of the United States Constitution, that we the people have power, that we are a country of immigrants. If we stand together with those, one individual can't tear that down.